lived my life working with the talented, creative musicians of New Mexico. I feel very privileged to be surrounded by the vast beauty of this great state. The panoramic views, geographical and cultural diversity, and the wonderful weather create a foundation for life fulfillment that would be hard to equal. So many of the friends I have made are not famous for their music, but feel fortunate, as I do, that we have been chasing our dream in the land of enchantment. The pursuit of a dream can be quite a roller coaster ride. The high point is best captured when you make music with your friends. Music can cast a magical spell over performers and listeners. All of my New Mexico musician friends can tell you that music is their bright, burning light. But they'll also tell you that there are times that the flame flickers in the night, and they struggle desperately to keep it burning. We share a common bond to keep the dream alive in New Mexico. Just like everything else, music is a difficult and tough business. But there are times that the payoff is better than money. It's a pure emotional high. Your friends are there, and the electricity in the air sparks the music of the night. Back in 1978, when I started my group, it just seemed like the perfect name. I mean, here I am living in the state of New Mexico, the land of enchantment. And I'm playing music that has mystery, romance, beauty, softness, all the energy of this great state. When I started the band, Dr. David Poling was filming a pilot television show called Horizons. And he had my band record some footage for that show. And that was sort of the beginning of the dream for New Mexico, the Sound of Enchantment. Born in Clovis, New Mexico. I remember specifically Roy Orbison was my hero. I thought, back in that time, people were battling on whether Roy Orbison was the king or Elvis Presley was the king, and of course they were both so new. But I never forget one night I went to see at Marshall Junior High. They had an auditorium there, and there was a big rock show. I mean, and Roy Orbison was playing, and I never forget that they light the stage. Back then there was very little stage production, but they would light the stage with these blue lights, and Roy Orbison and them had on our red coats or whatever, but they looked purple. But I remember seeing that, and he was playing one of his songs, Rock House, I think. And I looked at that and I said, this is what I'm going to do.
Well, I was back on the street, trying to survive this lonely hell. She left me with a goodbye. When would it stop? When would it go? That feeling that cuts like a knife. Then out of nowhere, did you really want my kisses? Did we dance too close? Do you think of me at night? Is this just a moment of craziness with you? Will love live and die on the vine? Can we survive the danger of just a thrill or two, making love in this moment in time?
I sometimes think maybe I was born a musician, but I really think being in Clovis and being around the excitement of new music focused me. Music was the driving force. I realized that it had to come first.
I'm back on the street and I'm trying to survive this hurricane. Your kiss starts inside me. I can't make it stop and I can't let it go. I've got to have you laying beside me.
I start off with an idea and I'm excited about it and I work on it and I love it until I hate it. And then when I hate it, I have to put it away. And then I have to go on down the road until I find another piece of music I love so I can work it to death and hate it.
Can we survive the danger of just a thrill or two, making love in this moment in time?
But then in time, it all happens in time, I look back and I'll say, I'm really glad I did that. That was pretty nice, you know. After I reached a point in time where I had made one of the biggest record deals I'd ever made, and it turned sour, and I just stepped back and looked at it and I said, you know, because you're working with bands, you're working with a lot of people, and the bands would usually break up. You'd make a deal, they'd break up. Then you'd have to start a new band, and it was really pretty crazy. So I decided to play music again, and that got me turned back towards music. And I started off with drums, and I would go to work in my studio. I had a studio, and I would go in every morning, and I was driving everybody crazy. I would sit in and I'd beat on the drums for 4 or 5 hours, and I would try to learn to play drums. And this was the period of disco, and back then the Bee Gees and all those guys were cutting stuff with drum loops. Well, I decided I wasn't a good enough drummer to be a drummer in a band, but I could make my own drum loops and do things like that. So I started working on this album, a combination of brass, percussion, and a lot of, and I even had songs. We had a song called "This Ain't No Sitting Bull." We had a lot of Indian things in the music, and a lot of Spanish guitar, gut string guitar. And I developed this album, which everybody thought I was crazy, but it was sort of a disco big band Latin thing. And right at the end of this album, it was called John Wagner and the Unity Band, because I thought it was going to be this real international kind of music. I recorded one song called Iron Horse, which sort of set a direction for me musically to think about. What really gave me the inspiration, I did it and everybody thought I was crazy, but a friend of mine who lived in Mexico sold it to RCA Victor in Mexico City. And all of a sudden nobody thought I was crazy. Right at the end of doing my John Wagner and the Unity Band projects for RCA, one thing I decided was that, because on a lot of the cuts were, I had 20 violins, I had 10 horns, and I thought, boy, this is a lot of work. It's a lot of effort to get it together. I would really like to have more of a combo or six-piece sounding band, so that it's more real. I think that was what I mean. It's not so overproduced. I decided that I wanted to do music that was more relatable to New Mexico, and so I picked. I wanted percussion in the band. I wanted a trumpet or two in the band, and I wanted gut string guitar in the band. I wanted to be able to play some pretty intensive music, so I wanted rock and roll guitar. And at that time I thought of Santana. Actually the first New Mexico album came together fairly rapidly.
John came out here because he loves to play music in the setting of New Mexico. That's probably why he calls his band New Mexico, the Sound of Enchantment. Tell you a little bit about the record that he made with them. About 10 years ago, he told me, he put together an album, and then he sort of shelved it for a while. Then he began to realize, as he listened back to it, how good it sounded. And when CDs came along, he decided to make a CD and a new tape. John Wagner's put together a sound that I can only describe as enchantment. It is Hispanic, it is Anglo, it is Indian, it has the sound of jazz, all the things that we here in New Mexico really love. He's also put together a group of some of the finest musicians who have been making music here in New Mexico for years. Please welcome John Wagner and New Mexico, the Sounds of Enchantment.
People from New Mexico playing music that has foundations from New Mexico for people in New Mexico.
Good morning. What a beautiful morning you brought to me today.
All Chevys are created equal. If black makes a difference.
Without United New Mexico, we wouldn't have been able to have grown the way we have.
Don't make me wait. I'm a busy man. I stand my ground.
There is a place where the action begins.
Dickies.
I love that barbecue.
Yeah.
Award-winning.
We're talking ribs.
Best ribs in town.
When the weekend rolls around, just roll on out of town in a Chevy truck from Ed Black Chevrolet.
No, no. No, 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 no. Nobody else can beat it here from West Coast Sound.
If it's some money that you need to borrow, remember you surround me. Warmth and light. Bob Turner's Ford Country. Every beautiful color. Every beautiful color of the whole human race. Of the whole human race. People put their trust in Big O. Big O, the tire people.
After all these years and all that, I feel like I'm just getting started. John Wagner Recording Studios has just finished a new production studio at the Rich Ford Auto Complex, and you will find me and Dick Orr there working on music, advertising, and movie projects, and more. We have also returned to teaching the recording arts to people in our community. And for music, while finishing production and mixing on the latest Buckarette CD, I produced a new project with my longtime friend and musical soulmate, Mose McCormick. And would you believe it's called After All These Years? About a year ago, I began producing audiobooks and a lecture series for good friend and successful author, Dr. Michael Shermer of Skeptic Magazine. After all these years, we are revving up, not winding down. I'd like to thank everyone in New Mexico for providing me the path to today and being inducted into the New Mexico Music Hall of Fame. From the bottom of my heart, I thank you.